Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of Wednesday Night Shooting. I am Tonya Rodgers, and I am here with the lovely Andrew M. Swift. And I'm going to be putting him over a ton on this show, especially just because I got annoyed by people talking shit and let people know that I will cut a bitch about Andrew. I've never met him, but I will cut a bitch. Seriously. Uh, we'll get into that, and we have so much to talk about. But right now, I'm gonna let Andrew have the floor. He has something to say to everybody. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah. I've got some words. So Tonya asked me what I thought this episode should be titled, and I suggested something to do with the New Day. New Day, longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history, just lost their titles, in case you don't watch wrestling and somehow stumbled upon this podcast. And I've been thinking about their reign, and I've been thinking about the fact that a lot of people were getting tired of them, and we're finding them a little bit stale recently. And I never had that feeling, and I was trying to decipher why. And I did some little soul searching, and I had some thoughts that I wanted to share with our loyal listeners and folks. So wrestling is kind of backward as like an institution, as WWE as an organization, as a industry. Its values are kind of retrograde. I mean, it's 2016, and calling women was like a notable victory in this year for wrestling. So that's kind of where that's coming from. And for somebody who places a lot of worth on my own value system and what I see as what is right, what is wrong, the fact that I watch wrestling and spend money, give money to a company that the owners give millions and millions of dollars to somebody like our president-elect, it really makes me uncomfortable inside. Like there's just that constant feeling of, I don't know if I should be doing this. So I was just, I was thinking, I was like, life is kind of about making moral compromises you make with yourself to, you make decisions that some things you're okay with, some things you're not, because you have to do that to live. You can't, like, I'm somebody who I wishes I could be vegetarian, because like every time I see an ad with like sad pigs like penned up, it makes me really depressed and upset. And I think about like my own cat, like that's an animal, like, and so I just feel bad, but I can't be a vegetarian because meat tastes really damn good. But an act like the New Day, which started as another stereotypical WWE racist gimmick, like overtly stereotypically racist, black preacher choir group, happy-go-lucky, smiley face, that sort of thing. But through their own creativity and hard work and effort and investment in their work, they turned it to a point where, once finally it was acknowledged that it was totally failing for good reason. It's good that act failed as a face in its original face run. Then they were allowed to do their own thing, and they ran with it to a degree that I don't think anybody could have imagined. And the fact that New Day are an act that got over being basically internet trolls and referencing especially a lot of black culture is something that has always made me feel very fondly toward them. And it has made me feel better. It's one of those things that makes me feel a little bit more okay with liking wrestling and liking WWE. The fact that these three guys, three very, very talented, very clever, very intelligent guys, were able to take the bullshit that they were given, and through their own efforts and work, turn it into something gold and turn it into something that allowed them to make a lot of money on merchandise and to get their names justifiably so in the record book. So that's why this episode is named Thank You, New Day, because I just wanted to give a shout out to how compromising at sometimes wrestling can be for people with value judgments about life. And they're an act that has made that all just a little bit better. So thank you, New Day.
That was very well said. Thank you very much, New Day. And I've always been pulling for him. You know, I have my issues with Biggie.
Biggie's extra.
But, however, I've always loved Kofi. Like, when people used to shit on him, he's just a mediocre baby face. There's nothing to him. He doesn't have any character. I was like, that's because they're not allowing him. And especially Kofi. I want to say, like, he deserves this so much for all the hard work and all the shit he's had to put up with and been through in that company. And also, my imaginary best friend, Xavier Woods. Most people's imaginary best friend isn't real. Mine is real. He just doesn't know we're best friends. I remember him because I'm a TNA watcher back in the day as Consequences Creed. And I always saw something in him. Him, Kofi, and Ron the Truth, R-Truth, K-Quick Killings. You cannot get me to say a bad word about any of those three men because, like, I've always enjoyed them. And, like, they're constant reminders that there could be so many more like them. But the fact is, somehow they were able to break through and have success and longevity in a business that is not friendly towards African Americans still to this day. Borrow the Cat Williams joke. Give me the book of all the WWE champions. White. So the fact that those guys, like some people are like, oh, R-Truth. Now that's the one where they say is stereotypical, but I'm like, no. Stereotypes exist for a reason. There are people like R-Truth out there, and that is how he is on camera, at home, everywhere. That man is like that. So the fact that they allowed him to have, and he's had some great moments all up and down the card, and he's never supposed to be the guy, but he's been somebody where if you need to be entertained, he does it. And that goes for Kofi. That goes for Xavier Woods. That also goes for Big E. Like, Big E was trying his best before New Day to have something stick. And I always found him entertaining, but it was just like he didn't have that hook. And he found it. So, I can't say any, like, I might get tired of them, but, like, shit, they're entertaining as hell. When it's time to perform a big pay-per-view match, the New Day delivers. Like, some of their matches haven't been good, but that's because they're wrestling in the club for those matches. But otherwise, they're pretty good on pay-per-view. But definitely the New Day deserved it. And I actually was starting to turn around and be like, let them keep the belts a little bit longer. But, you know, of course, WWE, they're going to lose it.
Yeah, you break the record the next show, you're going to lose it.
Yeah, so I guess that can be our segue into Roadblock. We don't have to go deep into it because it was just, like we said last week, a one-match show. Like, I know people have their opinions and all that, and this and that and the other about Sasha and Charlotte, and we can touch up on that. Only thing, as a woman who actually wanted to wrestle at one point, in her life. This shit will never get old to me. Women being important in the main event and like fuck who wins and loses. Like the fact that, and somebody, I actually had to explain to somebody, the stuff you see with people trying to cut each other and fight each other over women's wrestling, that's not new. They used to just do that for the main eventers and the men who were important. Like it really wasn't like team leaders on when I was a smart back in the day, because at some level, like it was a little bit of it, but it was never at this level because at some like in the back of our collective minds as wrestling fans, we knew like ain't no point of bickering and fighting about who getting pushed, and they don't give a fuck about none of them. We have these debates, and sometimes that's side seats. Post something about Charlotte and Sasha. 150 plus comments. The Universal title. So the fact that that happens, my mind, and I'll never get tired of that. The other thing that I want to touch up on is the fact that I've given up. KO sucks. He sucks. He sucks. He sucks. And you want to know why I'm going to say he sucks? And it's not just because of the headlock. It's my opinion. And I think this is Vince's opinion too. What happened with AJ Styles? Okay, Roman Reigns is some. If you get him in a match, he's the type of dude he's gonna sell for you. He's gonna do every single last one of the spots that you want to do, and you can have a fucking epic classic match, fucking house show with him. That seems like I can imagine he's like, yeah, I mean the finish is a spear anyway in a pin. You feel everything else out. It's like, to me, he doesn't seem like the guy that's like arguing about what spot he gets to kick out of and shit like that. For us as that guy. And for somebody, Kevin Owens, who's been wrestling since what, 1999? Is that
Yeah, a long time. Yeah.
A long ass time in the ring with Roman Reigns. So, and I agree with Stone Cold. AJ Styles absolutely did carry Roman Reigns to that fantastic match. You can tell because if you go watch against Seth Rollins, where it was kind of obvious Roman was calling the match. Roman was carrying the emotion, the narrative, everything for the match, the Money in the Bank match with Seth Rollins. It was okay match, but it wasn't a classic fire match because he didn't have a veteran in there to guide him. KO cannot fucking do it. And if you are main event, especially heel level, it is on you. Most heels call their own matches unless you're going against John Cena. KO matches I would ever even think other than Sami Zayn, because I didn't like any of their NXT matches. The only match I get close to being a classic was his first match with Cena. And I got a feeling Sami Zayn was calling the matches with Sami Zayn. So Roman's in there and he's like, fuck it, I really don't care. I'm not going over anyway. DQ finish. But this is Kevin Owens. This is his like catalog. You know, this is his highlight reel. And if all you can think of is, oh, a frog splash through the announce table, and then another one, and he's gonna kick out of it, that's your most like interesting spot in a match. Main event, like, no. He's not even that great of a talker, actually. Like this, like, and people were like, well, it's his booking. I don't buy that because I've seen CM Punk play the exact same type of heel and Kevin Owens play. And CM Punk was fucking scared as shit of Ryback. He was a straight up chicken shit heel. A strong heel. He had Paul Heyman cheating for him, come out and beat him. He had what's the cute little dude? he was a GM at one point. He was a fake referee in the Hell in a Cell.
What?
You know, he came around like right before the Shield.
This was before my time. I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, they just fired him like maybe a year ago because he said something about jackass marks or some shit.
I honestly don't know. Brad Maddox.
He had like so.
Yeah, Brad Maddox. Yeah. As everybody says it in the thread, right as I say it, Brad Maddox.
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
Come on, people. Where were you 20 seconds ago?
So, dude, and yeah, CM Punk is the best in the world, but at the same time, Randy Orton wasn't kill me now as this type of champion. So you can do it and be interesting. You can do it and not be overshadowed by your sidekick. You can do it and not rest in fucking headlocks. Like, this is the only way I know how to get heat. Well, then get fucking cheered. Like, seriously. Seriously. If you can't think of anything crowd to boo you, then just get fucking cheered. It's Roman Reigns. It's not that big of a fucking deal. Just don't fucking bore the shit out of me. And that match I had a feeling that it was going to be, and they were like, well, the match should be. I was like, nah, that match.
You called it. You called it.
It's going to suck because I don't know what the fuck has gotten into Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. Like, this isn't about him. I could see if it was like he was actually going to win the title, he's going to get some coronation. He probably would have cared a little bit more. He was like, shit, we just doing the gimmick at the end. We put him through the tables. I don't give a fuck about any of this. And it shows. Like, I want Roman Reigns he seems more motivated wrestling Rusev. He doesn't seem motivated to do much more with KO. That's why I want this shit to end. Whoever gets the title after Royal Rumble, I never want to see these two people wrestle again. Get together in fucking entertainment.
Especially, well, definitely not in those alignments. I agree with you. I've also been super down on KO lately. I think I posted in the Daily a couple days ago, just like, man, it sucks. It's a bummer that Kevin Owens sucks, which very much feels like the case. It's no longer like exciting to see him it used to be. And while I don't think the character has helped him, I also think he has really rested on his laurels and really rested on the fact that he knows he has a certain credibility with a lot of like smarky fans, for lack of a better term. So he doesn't really need to do anything, and he'll still get like cheered by at least half the audience, and that's kind of good enough, as he said in that interview. And it doesn't really seem like he's putting a lot of investment into his work right now, and you can tell when that's generally the case. And I made this point earlier today in the Daily that it feels like SmackDown has a really good feeling in that if you put a lot of investment and effort in, you will be rewarded with greater opportunity. Like, I know the line is in kayfabe, it's the land of opportunity, but it also kind of feels like that in shoot. Like, Baron Corbin has been putting in some serious work lately in the ring and on the stick, on talking smack, and in character work. And so he's making, I want to be in the main event. I want to be in the main event. And now he's there. He's not going to win the championship, but he's going to look really good coming out of that match next week because he's going to have Styles and Ziggler bumping like crazy for him, So he's going to start looking really good going into 2017. And I feel like that's a credit to SmackDown, whereas like on Raw, I feel like it's less fluid. Your place is less fluid. It's more structured. Like, this is how I see you, and this is where I think you should be. And like, you can't really move out of that spot. And I think that does hurt creativity and like investment from the performers in their own characters quite a bit. And I think that's a very, very big issue, but there's not really any way to get around it. But so I have a little bit of sympathy for somebody like Owens in that sense, but on the whole, I agree. He has been very disappointing. I did want to say one thing about the Iron Man match. And you said, and I don't necessarily disagree with this. You said that the fact that the women are in the main event is the important thing. Who wins and who loses doesn't matter. And I absolutely.
No, that's just to me. Right now, that's just to me. I understand it does matter. I'm saying, like, just me personally, I don't really care right now.
I think remember the person in the, I'm going to bring up the person in the roadblock recap thread. So I was making a comment about how it's problematic, it's hashtag problematic, that the fact that they had this narrative, this story built around history making, and the person who is, the character who is advancing and referencing and bringing up the history making and the advancement of gender equality in wrestling over and over and over and over and over and over and over again was Sasha Banks. Charlotte did not bring up history making, advancement of women's wrestling. I literally watched the entirety of the feud. It was always the character of Sasha Banks who referenced how they're breaking down barriers and how they, are, being history makers over and over again. That's not to say that that the character of Charlotte Flair doesn't also agree with those things, but the narrative driver, the person who was driving that narrative was the character of Sasha Banks. And so I think when you have the face making that argument, that very legitimate, very good, very important argument for wrestling to make, again, because women being called women was a victory for women, for wrestling, for progressives in wrestling in 2016. I think it sends a really bad message to not have the face go over in that feud. I think it undercuts the message that the face is saying. And I know, and this is where it gets to the point where it's like, well, is what the character of Sasha Banks saying, is it WWE PR speak or is it kayfabe? And it's problematic because I like to assume that the show is kayfabe. But it's entirely possible that they were just like, oh, if we say these things, then we'll get good press for doing these things, and not have it actually be considered part of the story. But the fact is, the entire rest of that feud was so god awful. The feud that I called the feud of the year. Most of the TV was so terrible that the only consistent thread in it was the history-making narrative being pushed and advanced by the face. So when the face loses that feud and discredits that argument, I think it sends a really bad signal. It's not, I mean, obviously I'm clearly a massive mark for Sasha Banks. No one would ever deny that or doubt that. And there's a little bit of me just wanting Sasha to go over and have her moment, clearly. But I also think if you're going to make a real life argument in kayfabe, like an important real life message in kayfabe, you need to have the important real life message win the feud.
Well, not if you're Booker T or Sasha Banks, you don't. You lose. Wonk wonk.
Yeah, that's another thing. It makes that, when you have that face lose who's making that argument, and when she's mixed race and loses to a tall, blonde, blue-eyed woman who calls herself genetically superior.
Mm-hmm.
in a company with a very, very bad history of, dealing with racial issues, it raises some questions.
It raises some eyebrows because I know a lot more black people than white people, and these are the things that I hear from casual fans, But no. Let's not get on a tangent about race again.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so it is my duty. I've made it my job to discuss the main event.
This needs like its own like theme music right here, where it's like doo doo doo. Tonya explains the Raw main event.
Yes, okay. So some people who are Shield stands, and I understand because I am one. Were upset that Roman Reigns just magically, like they seem to not, they don't watch the show, or they think that everything has to be explained to them in a promo, and I disagree. If you've been paying attention, you would know that for the past couple of months, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins have both had a problem with KO and Chris Jericho. They've been wrestling each other for fucking ever. But they've never been chummy. They never did the fist bump. They never had a heart to heart. They weren't like, if one helped the other, it was for their own benefit. Plenty of times one would get beat down, the other one wouldn't show up. Plenty of times. So it was kind of like, yeah, we both hate these guys, but we're not friends. Even when Mick Foley suggested that they team up in the triple threat main event last week, Roman was like, look, I'm just trying to focus on the universe. They both were like, yeah, I could do without teaming up with this motherfucker right here. Like, I'm got my own thing. And Mick Foley was gung ho for it. Okay, so this is how it played out. This is exactly how it played out. They've just not had a promo to explain it, and apparently people need it. I don't need it with Roman and Seth because their nonverbal communication was always better than verbal anyway. So Roman gets screwed once again out of a main event, and he's there pissed off. And Seth had already beat Chris Jericho. He was done for the night. He did not have to help Roman, and he came out there and helped Roman. The fist bump was, for all intents and purposes, because these two guys know their characters, even though WWE doesn't know them. That fist bump was like, okay, we made up. It's all good. That shit's in the past. Let's kill these motherfuckers now. I have no problem. If Roman Reigns was still foaming out the mouth and trying to kill Seth this long after it, I'd be like, dude, get a life. Move on. Like, what did he really stop? All three of the Shield guys have been all over the main event. And in kayfabe, they've all been successful, so they really have no reason. And basically, Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose really couldn't even stand each other. And Seth made them best fucking friends. So it's like, if you as a fan still hate Seth Rollins for turning on the Shield, then that's great. But I do feel like it is time, just for your sake, to just put that one away, leave it alone, because it's never going to be satisfactory for you. So they've forgiven each other. And so now they're going to take on KO and Jericho, and the Shield is kind of sort of back together. But Braun Strowman's going to kill everyone and win the Royal Rumble and become the Universal Champion. Like, that was the best thing ever. When I saw him stalking down to the ring and he pulled Roman off the apron, I was like, finally, something, anything. This is why I was like, when is Triple H coming back? So something can happen. Because these four guys have been in the stalemate for the longest time, and there's been no progression of the story whatsoever. They even like Seth could have still been mentioning Triple H every now and again. But they like after like 2 or 3 weeks, he stopped being that pissed off and he dropped it. And now, oh, Monday Night Football is almost over with. I think this week was the last week, or so. I don't follow football, but you know, Road to WrestleMania is coming, so here comes the game. So he has to bring them up. Like everybody sees through it, and nobody's like buying it. Meanwhile, for people who do need Seth to be like, I was an asshole. I shouldn't have done what I did when I split up the Shield. I realized the error of my ways. People need that. That's why he came back from his injury with the biggest pop, and it kept every week after week, dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. So now it's like, oh, yay, that dude. I will say Seth Rollins, like just the man, not the character, the man, seems to be happy that he's been tagging with Roman because he has a pep in his step that he has not had before. He comes in, gets the tag, he be flipping all. I was like, see, this is the Seth I fell in love with. Where has this guy been? So, like, he seems motivated. They told him that he's finna get a bigger spot or something because he seems like he cares when he's wrestling. I think what's going to end up happening with the main event is Chris Jericho and KO are going to feud. I don't think it's going to be for the title. I do think they're going to put both belts on Roman and mistakenly think that Braun can get him cheered. Like, I think, like, I don't think they've given up yet. But I hope that's not the case. I hope somehow Roman can circumvent all of the universal title shit, and I'll be fine with Braun and Roman with the US title. Like, but I feel like that's gonna be like the Raw main event. It's not gonna go on last at WrestleMania, but I feel like that's what we're leading to. Roman finally beats him at Royal Rumble, beats KO because Jericho's gonna be in the cage. And then Braun wins the Rumble. Sorry, folks who think John Cena's winning. No. They're making 3 big guys look really good leading up to the Rumble. And that's Braun, Cass, and Baron Corbin. And those are 3 guys going to have good Rumbles. So that's my explanation of the Raw main event. It's not much. It is not much, but I think it's going to be better than the last 2 years. Even with Roman in it, I think it might be better than the last 2 years.
I think it'll be better if Roman is more in the main event than he has been because his matches are always dope as shit. Like unless it's KO. But you know, like he has good matches with a lot. Like him and Strowman, I think will be awesome. I think that'll be like an awesome feud. I think they'll have some really good matches.
Because Roman is going to make Strowman look way better than he is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Roman is a seller like a motherfucker, man. He's a great seller.
He is.
Roman is lucky that he's beloved so much because he's such a good seller that usually those people just get placed into positions where they just put over other people. There's no bitterness showing in me there. But yeah, he's great. I love it. When he came out to Tribute to the Troops, like people booed him, and I didn't like actively yell and cheer for him, but I applauded him. I felt that was like a good step for me.
That's better than nothing.
Yeah, I was like, all right, Roman, I'm glad to see you. You know, like that was my feeling. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, let's get into the shows. SmackDown Live this week was a doozy.
Holy shit!
And so was talking smack. Okay, before that, let's just we cannot forget to talk about Neville.
Oh yeah, good shout. Yep.
Right quick. I approve. Actually, you know what I was thinking when I was watching Neville this week? That's how they should book Roman Reigns, but they're not going to. Just a mean ass motherfucker who just fucks people up. And he is done with your nonsense. Like he's Neville looks like at any second he could beat the shit out of Brian Kendrick. Like
anybody for sure.
Like anybody can get it. And he seems motivated. And he looks like he could bring some much needed like spice and emotion and everything to the Cruiserweight division. So
yeah, I think Neville's turn has been super interesting because again, the week before, Neville worked the dark match at the show I was at against Kurt Hawkins, and the kid next to me was like losing his shit for Neville, and Neville was all like giving him high fives on the way in and out. So like when Neville turned, all I could think about was like, I wonder if that little kid is watching right now and what his response. I swear to God, I was just like, I'm having mixed feelings right now because I'm thinking about this kid somewhere in the DC area who's probably just like, holy shit, my hero just like did something bad. And I was just like, man, I kind of feel bad right now for that kid. But I totally agree with you. The fact, like, I don't think I've watched 205 Live like the prior 2 weeks, but I went back and watched, and I went back today and watched last night's episode, and I really liked it. I think they're getting to a point now where they're starting to tell stories, and while the crowd isn't quite into it yet, I feel like if they keep doing the stuff they're doing, then they will, especially with like another familiar face like Neville. Even if he's getting the wrong like response, even if people are cheering him when they should clearly be booing him, they're still like it's still bringing some level of investment in, and I think you need to get past that general level of apathy that has been there for 205 Live since its very first episode. And so I think introducing Neville really helps in that, and it does not hurt at all that he's absolutely crushing this heel character. It's been Neville's like heel turn. Like I know in NXT, you know, his like tweener stuff was pretty good, but he was far from like an overt heel. But his stuff, like his promo was really good. He's really leaning into his Gordy. Is it Jordy? I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry if there's any. I'm sorry if there are any folks from Newcastle or other English folks listening. But his accent, he's really leaned into that, and like the way he's carrying his hair now is like straggly over his face, and it's I don't know, it's really working. I think I'm really excited to see where that goes. So I'm a big fan of that, and there's a lot of talent in that division. Like with him, Gallagher, I like Rich Swann, Cedric Alexander, Kendrick's a good character. TJ Perkins is. He can be good. He just needs Stokely Hathaway back with him.
Just gonna wrestle his matches too.
Okay.
Boring.
Tajiri, moving on. Tajiri is great. Grand Metalik and Akira Tozawa are great. So there's a lot of talent. Mustafa Ali is really good. Dorado is good. So there's a lot of talent that they have right there. They just need to get to a point where they can start getting one crowd super invested in the show so that other crowds see like, oh wait, maybe I should take another look at this if this crowd is like super hyped for it. So we'll see if they can get to that point. But I am encouraged by the last episode at least, and by Neville's introduction into the division. I also loved Corey Graves shitting on Morrow. First of all, everybody shits on Morrow like on his Twitter game left and right now. It's just hilarious. But Corey last night, in the last night's episode was like Neville did some, I don't know what he did, some deadlift suplex or whatever. Or what did he do? Did like a a deadlift suplex where he like held Swan or Perkins like up, and he was like, "Oh, shades of the British Bulldog or whatever." And Corey Graves is like, "See, you're given this is," and he turned it into kayfabe, which was really good. We have a really good bit of commentary on Corey Graves' part. He didn't just shit on Morrow just to shit on Morrow, because I mean that's great, but he turned it into kayfabe. He's like, "This is why Neville doesn't feel appreciated, because you know he's doing this cool move and you're giving the credit to the British Bulldog." I was like, that's a really good line on commentary. That is a really, really incisive thing to say. So I thought that was really good. I wanted to shout out Corey Graves for
that. Speaking of the cruiserweights, we just gonna talk about Noam Dar for a minute.
Oh yeah, please give me your take on this.
Okay, this is all personal. Like, I don't really have a problem with the angle per se, you know. He reminds me of a creeper who used to say my name like real drawn out, like Tonya, and he was aggressively about telling me how he liked me, and when I did not reciprocate and actually told him, "No, sir, you can have all of that to yourself," he did not leave me alone, and it ended up in a confrontation where I had to put these hands on him. So every time Noam Dar starts talking about Alicia Fox, I get triggered, and I feel like if I were Alicia, I would run in the other direction as soon as he's the creepiest creep to ever creep. And I want Cedric Alexander to beat the living shit out of him. Like the first time when he did it, I was just like, oh no, this doesn't feel nice. And then he did it again last night, and I was like, yeah, definitely my skin's crawling. Will he stop talking, please? Like, no. I hate him already. Let's move on to SmackDown Live. Now, that was just so much to go on the show, and you're the reviewer. Now, I would just like to say, I don't think you overrate SmackDown whatsoever. Wrestling has changed, and if people expect it to be how, like, it's never going to be how it used to be. However it catches on and becomes popular, if it ever does catch on and becomes super popular again, it won't in the same way that it happened in the Attitude Era, because the Attitude Era didn't catch on in the same way as the Rock and Wrestling Era, and you know the eras before that. Like before it caught on big in America, people thought it was a legit shoot. So you know, this is a business that continues to evolve, and I think SmackDown, and also we can talk about this on our year-end awards next year. What Matt Hardy is doing, is also going to be the next wave of how wrestling is going to catch on, where people just kind of fully embrace the ridiculousness of what they're watching. So, like, SmackDown, that was some of the best wrestling I've ever seen in my life. Like, from AJ Styles going ham on Ellsworth, which, like, I heard, like, the sky opened and angels came down singing hallelujah, hallelujah. And didn't I tell you that motherfucker is Jason, just not intimidating? Because he was still at the end of the show. He's still walking, wrapped up in bandage, but he's like Scarface at the end. I still standing. But like the stuff with Natty, where she finds like, oh, okay, bitch, I did it. I was like, oh, please don't. And the stuff Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch showing that she is like fuck female, one of the best wrestlers
Yeah.
in the world
Yeah.
today, with the Lucha Becky stuff, and then the Miz with his stuff, and then like talking smack, which like we have to take a moment and just appreciate that Rhino got paid. He got paid cash money. He's getting a check for getting drunk on WWE television network, whatever, live in the flesh, and hit on Renee Young. So much to the point where I was like, Dean gonna have a talk with him after the show. He gonna be like, Rhino, come here, buddy. Let me explain what you don't do. Renee Young slapping the shit out of the Miz for like basically, see, I don't know how Dean feels. See, that's a touchy subject because, you know, he one of my Shield boys, and I'm Mama Bear. And I know Dean, I don't know if Dean's comfortable because, like, when he first started dating her, he lied and said he was dating a magician in Las Vegas forever. When people were like, were him and Renee Young dating? He would never admit to it. She finally admitted to it. And then he was like, I guess I'll stop lying about it then. Like, so that whole, it's so much interesting stuff going on that show. And I was just like, how is this possibly coming from the same company that I have to beg for an episode of Raw to be like this? And every other SmackDown episode gives you something like this. But it was like every segment last night was like, fuck? What? Oh my God. Oh shit. God damn. What the fuck did they just say? No, I'm not watching this. I am not watching this. Please, somebody tell me. She did not say that is why John will never marry you. Please tell me she did not say that on WWE television. What am I watching? Like, I would have not been able to review that show. It would have just been like, fuck it. You need to stop reading this review if you have not seen SmackDown Live, and watch it. If you have, go watch it again. End of review. No grade. Go watch SmackDown Live again. Cause shit, like, it's not hyperbole and it's not SmackDown bias to say that was the shit last night. That's all like wrestling fans these days ask for. Like us, that's all we fucking ask for. And we got it. It's just like, oh Jesus.
Yeah, your comment, you said just then that if you were writing the review, you would say, like, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you have, go watch it again. I almost put in a line at the end that was like, I'm going to go watch this episode again right now, and you should do the same. I almost put in like that exact line. But yeah, that whole episode was just like, it just kept elevating. Like, it never, the only moment like you got a chance to breathe was like that Mojo segment with Ryan Phillippe, whose name I spelled wrong in my recap, by the way. I'm very upset nobody called me out on that. Apparently it's 2 L's and 2 P's, and I only used 1 L. And Kurt Hawkins, and then the match they had, like that, but that was only like 4 minutes. The rest of the show was just fire, 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 fire. You know, it was on. And even in that segment, we got the bit where, like, after Hawkins walked away, Mojo is really growing on me just for being a ridiculous bro. Because when he said, dude, that guy gets 0 chicks, and Ryan Phillippe was like, oh, you could totally tell. I laughed out loud when they said that. I literally laughed out loud. I was like, that is so stupid, but I can absolutely see that conversation happening, so it popped me. But just from the very beginning, it took everything, and I still saw some people complaining about Styles looking like weak and stuff, or like not acknowledging the fact that, like, oh God, well, they finally stopped making Styles look weak. And it's like, no, people, no, they were never making AJ look weak. what they just told you last night was that AJ was never weak for a single second. It's just that that fucker Dean Ambrose kept getting in the way because literally he struck him 4 times and he fell down dead and pinned him with fingertips. Like, come and like when it happened, I was just like, first of all, Ellsworth ducks under the big spinning back fist. If you all go back and watch the clip, he does the like boom boom. And he does like the elbow, and then he goes for the back fist, and Ellsworth's head is down. So you see the back fist miss. And then he does the forearm. I don't know why I'm like acting this out. He does the forearm, and which is the blow that just gets Ellsworth, just fucking knocks him flat on the back. And I was just like, that was awesome. And then he just went to pin him, and I'm like, please tell me this is it. Please tell me. And it was just 1, 2, 3. And then the crowd was like, oh shit, that just happened. And I was just like, they just literally put the perfect topping on the entire Ellsworth in the main event story. That was literally.
God, that's something that AJ does, like most of his matches. And every WWE superstar, what do? They stumble around, you know, but they're not out. This motherfucker got knocked out by one of AJ Styles setup moves. Come on now.
By a strike. By just some random strike.
Weak. He never looked weak. You know what looks weak? Champion and Roman Reigns, Superman punches you, and then you fall down and accidentally pin somebody.
Pin somebody else? Yeah.
That happened to Kevin Owens, by the way.
Yep. Oh yeah.
He got Superman punched, and while he was unconscious, he won the match. Looking weak, it's not that you're the number one contender interferes on your behalf. And at one time, one of the losses that he had to Ellsworth was he fucking beat him down so much he got disqualified. How is that making him look weak?
I know, right?
They didn't even get off of that shit. They just didn't enjoy Ellsworth in the main event. Just say that's how you feel. Say that's how you feel.
Which is fine. You don't have to like it, but like own up to what you're saying, you know? Like own up to what you're not liking. Don't make a completely non-credible argument about how AJ looks weak when literally during this entire like program that's been happening week after week, there is a louder AJ Styles chant in every arena week on week. Like, no. Making somebody look weak is when they come out after they, you know, I had to get some of these digs in, come out after their feud to a very minimal pop.
Ooh,
very, very muted response on crutches. And you tell the person, and you say the other person is way better than me. My entire character is a fraud.
Let me tell you.
That's what makes making somebody look weak is.
What they remind me of. Because I don't know if you were watching yet. When Sasha came out and gave that promo, that was reminiscent of when Roman Reigns beat Daniel Bryan, and they had Daniel Bryan come out there and say that shit. But you see, people gonna explain that shit away. But they hated it when Daniel Bryan did it. But Daniel Bryan didn't also say, and because you beat me, I realized that my entire being, everything about me is false. And you are absolutely the better man. Daniel Bryan was just basically saying you were the better man that night. You gave me hell. Congratulations. And people, oh shit, look what they're doing. Sasha Banks came out and questioned who the fuck she was because she lost to Charlotte. Question her entire character of the boss. But you know, strong heel champion.
And then Charlotte wrestled a 15-minute match in which she was dominant over her new number one contender.
And barely lost.
And lost on a technicality when she wasn't even pinned. Right. I couldn't like if that was I don't know what's worse. I don't know what's worse that they booked it. I don't know if it's worse that they booked it so her shoulder wasn't down or if it was an accident and then they highlighted it. Like,
Which,
why?
either or. Just let Bayley
Either is bad. Yeah.
God damn. She's the queen of pay-per-view. That's why they give her the, like, I could just see when, and I'm saying when Charlotte wins at WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, yep.
When she does, that's a little thing that I do. I post in the threads. I laugh uncontrollably about some certain shit because that's all. That's gonna be my response. Ha 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 ha. When she wins at WrestleMania, then what are we waiting for? When she pins Bayley clean as a fucking sheet, or whoever the fuck she faces at WrestleMania, then what? Be the excuse. Now understand this. I love me some Charlotte. As a matter of fact, I actually think the fact that they stopped having her wrestle like her father, and now she's an ass kicker, that makes a whole fucking lot of sense to me. But she is the bad guy. She should not be beating people clean all the fucking time. She's a horrible person. And she's the face of the division. But it's like, the reason why I don't complain so much is because it's always been one woman. It's always been a one-woman division to Vince. And that's something he's still not gotten out of. Like, people say Trish and Lita, but those bitches took turns being it wasn't, oh, Trish and Lita, they're both equal. No. When Trish was on top, most of the time, Lita was over here with some dudes doing something. And then when Trish was on top, Lita was on top, Trish had left. They waited a while. Because Lita was with Edge and all this. But when Trish had a long time on top, and it was Trish. And there were other women who came in here and there. But you can tell when it's like when Nikki Bella was on top, they stagnated everything. It was just Nikki Bella. When AJ Lee was on top, it was just AJ Lee. Now Charlotte's on top, and they are intending it to just be Charlotte. And people like the 4 horsewomen, so they're going to use all of that for Charlotte's game. This is Charlotte's division, like Ric Flair said.
Like Ric Flair said, it's my daughter's division.
So the only hope you can have is that, trades happen.
Your favorite goes to SmackDown. That's the hope. Like,
or your favorite goes to Raw to put over Charlotte.
I don't want that shit.
Well, it's gonna happen. It's Charlotte's world. We're all just living in it.
We're all living in it. Yep.
I've been realized that, but I can't get upset about it. But there's a lot of people upset, and it's funny to me. The people are like, "Well, I'm just gonna wait and see." She's been dominant in the division for almost 2 years. I'm just gonna wait and see what happens.
Yeah. How long do we need to? How many expected coronations need to happen that don't happen before we can acknowledge that they were never going to happen?
No. They aren't. Is there anything else you want to talk about that happened before we go to our naughty and nice list? Because it is Christmas week.
I wanted to touch on Becky a little bit. She blew me away last night. Like I've been a fan of Becky for a long time, but she's always been comfortably my third favorite of the horsewomen. And honestly, and to be entirely honest, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I like Alexa more than Becky. But man, first of all, as soon because I when I heard Alexa give the line whatever happens to the person out there tonight is on you, I was like, oh, Alexa's gonna fucking murder someone in a squash. I was so hyped because Alexa's great in squash. She's really evil and just murders people. So I was hyped. And then the camera cut, and during her entrance, you could see in the background Becky in the La Luchadora in the background, and I was like, is that wrestler in a mask? And I was like, oh my God, that's totally. Immediately, I was like, that's Becky. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that is Becky Lynch. And then the whole time, it was great because when she would strike or get struck, she would audibly make noise, and it was clearly her voice. And I was just like, this is amazing. I am so happy about this. And the fact that she was rolling around and shit and doing lucha libre shit, I was like, Becky, why don't you wrestle in like crazy ass different styles all the time? You know, and it's weird because Vitens especially has been saying for a very long time her comeback segments on offense are very boring, honestly. Like they're very much same every time, and they don't really look like they have a ton of impact, and it's just not very like special. Like if she was around here throwing like 4 suplexes in a row like she did during the Unstoppable match with Sasha, sure, that's awesome. But like stuff she does now is not really that interesting on offense, but she was like doing all kinds of crazy shit, and I was just like, this is awesome. I was like, this is legit. There was a moment where after I was like, that's so Becky, I was like, is that Becky though? Like I was like, I'd never seen this shit from her before, so you know, I was kind of a little stunned. But yeah, that segment was incredible, and I thought, I don't know, that did it so well for me. And like, there's just little stuff, like a couple of little things also from last night was like Styles on commentary when he was like putting over Corbin in a big way, just not by saying anything about Corbin at all, but just by the fact that at the beginning of the match, he was like, I don't care, it doesn't matter. And then like halfway through the match, he was like, oh, Ziggler's going to come back. Ziggler, he's got that fighting spirit. He's going to come back. And then he started actively rooting for Dolph. I was just like, that is a great way to put over the other guy in the match. Because it's like, holy shit, AJ Styles is legitimately getting scared of Baron Corbin's power. And by the way, Baron Corbin, like I know he's a power wrestler, but sometimes I've heard it claimed before that he doesn't like really look all that strong or tough, but I think that guy is fucking massively strong and vicious. Like the deep, like 27,000 rotations he does is awesome every time. But anyway, that was a tangent. Yeah, let's get to our naughty and nice list because this has I have some words to say about this.
Okay, well, I don't know. Let me start with my naughty list. For in the WWE wrestling as a whole, I'm gonna put number 1 on my naughty list is Alberto Del Rio and Paige.
Okay.
And just with the commentary to stop whatever the fuck you're doing, like right now.
Yeah.
Another person that goes on my naughty list is Brock Lesnar. He's number 2. You've sucked the entire year. So I'm gonna okay, yeah, squash Goldberg, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck. You have sucked all year. Next time you show your dead ass carcass, you need to have some fire in your fucking belly, sir. Thank you. Who's number 3 on my naughty list? Oh, yes. This isn't even about wrestlers. This is about guys, and I'm not going to name anyone specifically, but guys who break scoops via Twitter or anything else. And this includes all of them. Please do me a favor and pull your head out of your fucking ass. You're not a celebrity. You're not a star. You're just some rando who's just as obsessed with wrestling as the people you fucking mock. So take it down 100 motherfucking notches. Please, let's stop that shit. Like the condescending tweets and the making fun of marks and all that. Calm the fuck down. You're not essential to the business. You're actually help kill a big part of it for a lot of people a lot of the fucking time with your fucking speculations and getting people all hopped up about wellness getting. Remember that when like 20 people or something we were all panicked. Oh, everybody's failing drug tests. Oh my God, ain't gonna be no WWE. Calm your fucking ass down. You're just as big as marks as anybody else. You're not a special little snowflake. You actually are fucking irritating. And I could do without like most of you. Most of you. Stop that shit. Okay. I don't know. I'm kind of in a generous mood. I don't want to put anybody else on my naughty list. Who I'm going to put on my nice list? Kind of, I have to say this. Of course, I'm going to put Roman Reigns on my nice list. Because, as far as I know, he's the only WWE superstar that got wellness. And then say, oh, my doctor forgot to give me a prescription, or I didn't do this, or it was this, or no. He said, yeah, I failed a drug test and I own it, and I'm just gonna, go get off of whatever I was on when I'm on my suspension and then come back and keep doing my job, okay? I'm very proud of him for that shit. Who else is on my nice list? Base Ward and Road Dogg Jesse James. Guys were writing the show before the show mattered, and when I was reviewing the show, I was telling people, no guys, really, SmackDown's getting a lot better. And they were like, I just can't be bothered to watch it. Yes, it's bothered to watch now, ain't it? Same two writers since before the brand split. They came on last year in the spring. Who else is on my nice list? I'm just gonna say the majority of the WWE roster, they're on my nice list because despite all the ups and downs and all this other bullshit, they keep coming, they keep showing up, they keep putting themselves through this shit. So yeah. Another group of people I want to put on my naughty list are assholes who go to wrestling shows specifically to just chant what the fuck you want to chant, or be seen in the audience, or to be fuck you. I am not watching to hear what clever little ditty you can chant. I'm actually watching these wrestlers. So if you want to be the show, then I suggest you go to wrestling school and learn how to wrestle and try your best to get signed to the WWE. That's it. You can go ahead with your
I'll start with naughty as well. My number one naughty is the character of Enzo Amore. I saw T-Made made a comment in the Daily just before we came on about how he liked SmackDown last night, even though it was kind of like trashy wrestling, and the fact that it was like the Silicon reference, or you're sleeping with so-and-so, or, that sort of stuff. But the fact that all those things being said were being said by heels, and they either received their comeuppance immediately, or I wrote this in the recap as well, or and Carmella's sake, she already decisively lost the feud to Nikki, so her jabs at Nikki now are just well, you've already been proven to be all talk and no walk, so it doesn't matter what you say. So that's I'm okay with. I saw some people online, friend of the show, Lady J, I saw her raise some issues why are they even presenting these sort of arguments and skits and bits about obvious misogyny and stuff on the television and stuff. And I think that's a worthwhile discussion to have, but I also fall on the line of, if it's the heel saying it and they get their shit taken to task for it, then I'm okay with it. But if it's a face who's doing it, if it's somebody we're meant to sympathize with, and who is literally committing the definition of sexual harassment week on week, and we're meant to cheer this person, that is not okay. And that gets into the point where I was talking about Sasha earlier. If you're telling a message, if you're making a larger message you know, in your story, then it needs to be properly aligned and the good person needs to go over. But in this story that we have with Enzo, who, by the way, this is not his first rodeo on being an overt misogynist. I mean, he was a creeper in NXT on Carmella, but thankfully they dropped that after a while. But like that whole like stable trio started with like Enzo keep trying to get into Carmella's pants and failing and like being way too creepy about it. But thankfully they just like dropped it at a certain point and didn't ever go back to it. But now they've like totally brought that thing back on the main roster. And like the stuff he did with Sasha, which we all know I hated the shit out of that segment for a whole bunch of different reasons. And now this stuff with Lana is very, very problematic. And it's the thing where, like, at the Troops, when Cass came out in the main event, Enzo came out with him and cut a promo. And Enzo gave his, like, Christmas stocking cap to one of the kids who was sitting in front of me. And I was just like, yeah, sure, you know, that's what the face does. But then the face is also out here saying, like, oh, you liked it when you saw my dick. Like, you liked it. You know you liked it. You know you want it, blah, blah, blah. Like, that is literally the definition of sexual harassment. And sending those mixed messages on your program is very, very bad, I think. I think it's not the worst thing in the world to discuss these issues, but in a show like a pro wrestling show where it's clearly like a morality play and the good guy is supposed to be clearly the good guy and the bad guy is supposed to be clearly the bad guy, it's damaging to your product in a lot of different ways to have someone like Enzo be presented as a good guy. And then especially when the heels in the story, Lana and Rusev, are out here on Twitter being like, I know I'm a foreigner, but hey, little boys don't talk to girls like that. And it's just like, what the fuck am I supposed to think here? You know? So that's my biggest like naughty list, like, is the whole Enzo Amore character, and not just the character, but what the character means to the people, you know, what it represents about the people who are writing the show and producing the show, like how they see the world still to this day, despite, you know, putting women in the main event and stuff. The fact that they still see Enzo as an acceptable good guy, and then they mock the whole idea of sensitivity training, like that is a big, 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 big problem for me, at least. So all of that's on my naughty list. What else is on my naughty list? I don't even know. That's the one thing that's pissed me off the most lately about wrestling. So like every time I'm like upset about Sasha Banks booking, I'm like, oh, grumpy. And then Enzo does something that makes me fucking furious. And then I get super mad about the Sasha stuff. It's a whole mess. So Enzo needs to stop doing that shit. And the performer needs to fucking speak up and say, this is not cool. I should not be saying this as the face. Who else? I'm just going to go straight to my nice list now because I don't give a shit about naughty people anymore. My first person on my nice list is somebody who doesn't get a lot of credit, somebody who gets a lot of flack, and I think it's a popular thing to shit on this person, and I think if people gave him a chance, they would appreciate what he brings to the product, and that is none other than Byron Saxton, who has totally won me over with his whole character of just being a total doofus, but being so like into it and like cheerily so, and like being self-aware that he's a doofus, and he's just like, I don't care, I'm a geek, like I'm gonna be a geek and it's totally cool. And like I love that. Like that just makes me so happy to see that guy like get to a point where he can become like a valued contributor to the product. And I will also always have a soft spot in my heart for Byron Saxton because he literally gave me my first headline about my first piece about Sasha Banks in his commentary. So I will always have appreciation for him. Also on my nice list is the entirety, everybody who has gone into making the women's division in WWE, elevating it to the level that it is now. And that involves the performers, that involves the allies it has backstage. I'm like clearly Ryan Ward and Road Dogg, and even Michael Hayes, weirdly, who's like racist, but somehow is cool with women's wrestling. And Triple H, clearly. Stephanie, who, yes, does her PR stuff, but also I think her heart is also in the right place. So all those people who have toiled away to get to the place that we are at now, where our bitching and moaning now is about booking and not about the fact that women are being treated like shit. Like, that's like, it's not nothing. So like that acknowledgement should be that advancement should be acknowledged and appreciated. Also on my nice list are the wonderful Cageside community, who are, and I'm especially all the folks in the Daily who are all like way smarter than I am, especially people like Reverend Kane and Videns, who have like a vast history of wrestling and are able to contribute a lot of like really valuable insight. And I became a much better baseball fan like 10 years ago when I joined the SB Nation version of Cageside Seats. For the Cleveland Indians site is Let's Go Tribe. And there was a moderator on there named Jay, who was like a really sharp guy and really sharp about like where baseball was at and like analytics and discussing contracts and stuff. And so that really elevated my level of intelligence. And I feel like those guys, especially in everybody in the Daily and everybody on Cageside, and Gino and Sean as well for providing this platform, have really helped me elevate myself a little bit, at least as a wrestling fan. So massive appreciation to that. Also on my nice list is Mike Mizanin, who teaches boys and girls around the world that you can be an awesome performer and as a heel and get booed. So shout out to Mike. I'm a big fan of you. I think that runs down my my lists.
Well, that's a really trying to see if I forgot anybody, but I don't think I did. Of course, yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to the Cageside Seats community as well. People bicker. We have disagreements, what we enjoy, what we don't enjoy. But I still wouldn't. There's nowhere else that I do go for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Cageside Seats. I don't like when people are like, check out what Reddit is saying. I'm like, what's a Reddit? I don't know. Don't tell me about any other wrestling website. Not interested. Cageside Seats. There are some times where I don't feel like watching wrestling. And I'm like, I'm going to watch it just so I can banter with these people that I enjoy talking to. I also want to put you on my nice list, Andrew. Because, like, you have a penis and you're not sexist whatsoever. Like, you're actually like one of the biggest feminists. So we need more male wrestling fans like you. We do. We need way more. They need to start coming to shows and supporting these women. You want to say anything else before we get out of here?
I think, something we never ever do is we never plug our Twitter accounts. And
We sure don't.
I feel like we should do that. So you should follow Tonya at
It's Militia Malice Joe.
There you go. Isn't there an underscore in there somewhere?
No, there's no. It's just all together. Militia Malice Joe.
J-O,
Because those
right?
are my two. Those are my two alter egos.
Okay. And I am Andrew M. Swift. So go follow us on Twitter. We always, bitch and moan and mark out about stuff, about shows. So go ahead and follow us and tweet at us and retweet us and make us feel good about ourselves.
Like the video, yeah.
And like the video, comment on it on YouTube, send it to your friends. Say, hey, these people are putting out a podcast where they just banter and shoot the shit, but then they also get serious sometimes. It's pretty cool. So you should tell your friends to listen to it.
Yes, and of course, the ultimate nice list goes to everybody who sits through this and listens to us and cares about what we think, because we are just two fans, just like everybody watching. I guess everybody's watching is a wrestling fan. If not, watch wrestling. Like this dude in this shirt, he's like the best wrestler. Don't listen to the crowd. He's great. All right, people. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. And if you're not a Christian, just enjoy the holiday. Enjoy if you get a day off of work. Celebrate that. Good night, everybody.
Good night.